Langarth is important for Cornwall Council because it provides up to 4,000 homes in a garden village type concept. The design and the focus has been on quality, affordability and efficiency throughout the whole scheme, and I'm really looking forward for this being delivered for the unlocking some of the housing needs for Cornwall moving into the next 10 to 20 years. The housing will comprise of different tenures, so there'll be lots of open market properties suitable for health workers and first time buyers, and we'll also give lots of housing for people who need social housing as well. So there'll be a real mix of design, real mix of tenure, and it will be a perfect example of how a community can be built from the ground upwards.
The system that we have often brings homes ahead of investment in infrastructure. What we are trying to do with all developments in Cornwall is ensure that infrastructure comes alongside those developments. So making the developments sustainable, meaning that they are a mix of different uses, helps to ensure that journeys outside of that development are minimised as far as possible. But of course people will go to the beach and go into Truro and go to other places in Cornwall. Cornwall operates in that way. So what we've got to ensure is that as many journeys as possible are done by foot, are done by walking, cycling or on the bus, but acknowledging that when people need to go other places there are options for them.
Langarth will be served by frequent public transport. The A390 is one of the busiest bus corridors in Cornwall, with a bus every 6 minutes, but buses will also be operating along the Northern Access Road, which is a strategic road going through the Langarth site. So there'll be frequent public transport, and this will be aligned to our wider public transport vision around introducing a bus fares pilot. So there'll be capped fares for short journeys, so the bus will become much more of a natural and affordable choice for people to make those shorter trips.
One of the things about Truro as a whole is there are many more people who work in Truro than there are people who live in Truro. It's really important that Langarth provides facilities and services and jobs within itself so that people can live and work in that same place. So we will be insisting that throughout the whole of Langarth there are many opportunities for people to locate their businesses, grow their businesses. There will be an absolute emphasis on ensuring that this is for local people, and that young people in particular have a route into jobs either in construction or into the businesses which will go into Langarth.
Had our first members of public walk down the interim link road to come and see our tree nursery and talk about the expansion plans for the nursery, and we've taken them up to see the ancient Iron Age hill fort at Governs Round, and they had a talk with one of the archaeologists from Cornwall.
Our little people here will be those people who are buying those houses and living on the Langarth site, so it's so important for them to be involved and have their ideas heard and shared.
We're going to quickly take you into the next field, which hopefully this winter will have 2,000 to 3,000 trees planted in it. Along our oak trees, which we had given free to us April this year, we tried to get 500 oaks into the ground as quickly as we could. We've had mixed results, but at least some of them are still growing, and let's see how they get through the winter. And then eventually this whole field will be planted in trees as well.
We were very looking forward to coming along and looking at the site in its sort of barest form, really, and ideas of zoos and skate parks and different shops and a co-op here and there, and how it will look and materials used, and they wanted lots of trees, which was cool because we now know that you guys are planting thousands and thousands.
A couple of engineers in their family, but it's a great job. Your dad's an engineer, fantastic.
I think it's opened their eyes up into a whole new world of jobs. You know, the construction, the planning, the architectural side of things. We've had talks of delivery drivers, crane drivers. So, jobs and the wider scope of what's out there, most definitely.
I think there's two levels really. One, it's about Langarth as a project and trying to build up that correct connections with the wider community. So we've got our most local primary school. The children in the primary school will hopefully come to buy a house at Langarth. They're certainly going to be next to the development for a number of years, and my hope on the other side of the fence from the construction industry side is that actually we do have a skills shortage in the industry at the moment, and so enthusing the children, getting them to come onto a construction site as sorts, it's a bit early on in some areas, and getting them to understand the different roles and responsibilities, getting them to do some master planning like they did at the for phase 1, I hope will enthuse them and get them potentially thinking about coming into the industry.
What I enjoyed most about the visit last week is that, because seeing what that site is going to end up being, like seeing it before it's actually happened, I think it's going to be amazing there.
I think there should be a few parks and stuff.
I would like to see like a lot of fields, because I realise that they're being kind of taken over, but I also like the fact that it's not completely taken over because it's eco-friendly.
Well, I think they should maybe put a hotel with like a little like a little tree area around it, and then like a gate that lets you in, and then have a little village in front of it.
One of the things that we're really passionate about at Builder in Nature is recognising that yes, we have a really important role to play to protect nature, but we also need new homes for people to live in. So how do you balance those two things? Yes, people feel like there's a tension there, but actually sometimes you can make a development that means that space, that land, is actually working harder for nature than when it was in agricultural use, and that's because a lot of our farming practices now mean that actually we are seeing a lot of new nature arriving in urban areas, and that's a lot to do with how we actually encourage people to have more wildlife friendly gardens. It's about introducing species on the street that are really good for wildlife as well, so we're actually thinking about, well, what types of street trees shall we put in, and can we ensure that that then becomes a green corridor for nature to move through the site. And also we can ensure through that development that there are fingers that come out of the development into the wider countryside, so we're actually seeing that development then not as an island of no nature, but as a stepping stone for nature to move across the landscape. And that means actually we can be adding more biodiversity through how we deliver the development, and I want to see that here at Langarth.
The Energy Centre gives us an opportunity to really do something different at Langarth. With the climate change emergency declared by Cornwall Council 18 months ago, it's going to be very clear that the direction we take with new developments has to be done differently, and Langarth really gives us a good opportunity to do just that. So we've been busy looking at how we can develop a community-based energy infrastructure which really gives benefits for the residents, the people who are going to be living in the garden village, and also helps the Cornwall Council achieve its ambitions around achieving net zero carbon.
The area of Langarth falls within a critical drainage area, and these CDAs, as they're called, have been identified by the Environment Agency because of their importance in downstream flooding. And that means that we need to control the flooding from the site to protect downstream Truro from any future events. All the analysis that we've done has taken climate change into account. We're looking at some very extreme scenarios for flooding to make sure that we take all possible events into account for the flooding design of the site and also the impact downstream into Truro. What we're looking at doing is incorporating SUDS features. Now these SUDS are known as Sustainable Urban Drainage Systems, and they comprise things like detention ponds, soakaways, a localised area, permeable paving for example, and all sorts of other features that we can slow down the flow of water off the site so that there isn't such a rush of water downstream into Truro.
It will provide us with very much needed key worker accommodation close to the hospital, walking distance. The redevelopment closer to the hospital will benefit the hospital more than it will overwhelm the hospital, and we are so confident of that. We have decided that we are not going to put a minor injuries unit into the new Langarth development because it will just simply split our workforce. It won't stop people that really do need acute care coming to the hospital. So the pressure on the hospital will be met by the development of new models of care and putting care close to home in the local communities across Cornwall.
Langarth is an exciting, ambitious project in its own right. and there'll be plenty of community provision available for that distinct community on the west side of Truro. But what we're really keen to do is to connect that new, wonderful, ambitious development with the rest of life in Truro. And Lifehouse and the Three Milestone Community Centre, the school and Langarth will be able to work in partnership together. And so being able to do that and commit to serving that new community is a part of our vision here as well.
We will ensure that the design and quality is essential and at the forefront of all the design and planning making processes. It's a much more joined up strategic approach to providing the homes that we need in Cornwall moving into the short, medium and long term.